Good afternoon. I would like to introduce you all to Scott Homan. He is a filmmaker working on a film documentary entitled XJW coming out. Hello, Scott.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
Could you talk a little bit about your background? Well, I'm interested in knowing your background as a filmmaker, but first a little background as a Jehovah's Witness. I think that will interest those who are watching.
Sure. I grew up in Wisconsin, in northern Wisconsin, in a small town called Antigo, Wisconsin, near Wausau in the center, near the last part of the farms, first part of the great forests of the Northwoods. My parents joined the religion when I was about 5 years old. So in this town of 8,000 people, we started going to the only congregation. The nearest congregations were about an hour away in any direction. My grandparents actually were found in the door-to-door ministry after my parents all had their own kids and the grandparents were long out of the house. They found it in their retirement. Then slowly all of their kids sort of came and joined the religion and then raised some of their kids in it and some not. So some of my cousins are and some aren't in it. And my parents are pretty bad at it. We skipped meetings a lot, and my mom never got baptized under a lot of pressure. So I had this sort of kind of a fringe experience as a witness where almost all my friends were not witnesses. There were very few people in it that were my age. So I was in sports a little bit and art classes after school. So I didn't have the typical extreme Jehovah's Witness experience, but was in it enough to be a weird guy with my worldly friends.
Yeah.
Who was cool enough to hang out with and skateboard with and play music with, but you wouldn't invite them to smoke weed or certain parties. And then with the witness friends, not really in it enough to be considered good association.
Sure.
My mom was kind of a natural born anarchist and encouraged a little bit of rebellion in us, I love that about her. Absolutely. So yeah, I had that experience. I kind of had friends in it as a teenager, but they lived in the nearby city. I had some cousins that were in my hometown that were in it, and some of them joined and some never got baptized. So we were kind of close with them because they were the only real witnesses our age that were nearby. And then, yeah, there was a bunch of witnesses in the nearby city who played music. So I played guitar and sang in a band and just for fun as well. And there was a couple witness bands in the nearby town. So I'd go hang out with those people. And all but one of those people end up leaving the religion. So one guy's still in it, I believe. That was the first wave. And then I sort of left for a little bit or sort of wavered in my faith and then came back. In my early 20s, I left around 19 and came back after like 6 or 7 months being kind of out and not really going to the meetings. And I sort of had this second wave where I took it more serious but I still was in a band that was with non-witnesses and recorded an album at that time with those guys, recorded my own album at the time. But most of my closer friends were witnesses around then and musicians and artists, and also I was pioneering or auxiliary pioneering regularly. It was a difficult balance.
Yeah. So you were one of those lucky witnesses that were able to live a fairly successful double life.
Yeah, I guess so. But I was always sort of trying to find this balance between what I was reading and studying in school with biology and the bit of science that we had and the contradictions between the religion and the mental hoops you have to jump through to believe the science and the faith.
Right.
The cognitive dissonance was very strong in me, believing multiple things that were contradictory simultaneously.
I totally get it.
So actually I had a third sort of stint where I moved to Minneapolis and kind of rebuilt a life there. And I focused on my witness friends there. I didn't really have many friends outside the religion for about 3 years. Then I went to Florida for a short bit because my brother lived there. I had only witness friends there. Did the standard lifestyle, going out 10 hours a month or so, going to all the meetings. And then I decided I wanted to go abroad and kind of try the need greater part of it, because there was this brochure that came out that was here's all the things you can choose to do with your life. There are 6 choices or some small number,
sure.
And all of them sounded terrible to me. Become an elder, become an MS, become a special pioneer, regular pioneer, or go on an international adventure. And I was like, okay, I'll find that one if this is what I have to do to stay in this, because I believed it. That's where I sort of had my awakening, I think. Sort of a cultural imperialist attitude among a lot of the foreigners who were doing the New Greater work. And they thought very little of the local people and the local congregations, and didn't allow them really to have any kind of position. And they kind of, some 18-year-old from England or Europe or America or Canada could come in and take over the congregation and do a public talk. And all the locals who'd been there for 5-6 years couldn't do any of that. It was really strange. Some of that started really affecting me. But I was learning to surf and having a good time and climbing volcanoes, real spiritual endeavors while I was down there. And pioneering, auxiliary pioneering, or somewhat. But anyway, from then on, so I left in 2008 when I was 27. I was in the States again, and I walked out of a Kingdom Hall one day after a really annoying talk and vowed never to return. No matter what, I was done. There's a whole logical pathway to my exit.
Sure.
But that stuff takes years. Anyway, the puzzles and the things you're forced or told you have to believe that just don't make any sense at all. And they'll stand by them till the day they die, right, without any evidence. And I was trying to find evidence, and there just wasn't any. For example, the flood legend.
Yep, that was a big one for me.
Super simple to erase. I mean, that's just unbelievable.
Yep.
There's no evidence for that story. And it's not the first time that story was told.
And if it had happened, there would be so much evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you walked out, you were mentally done. I mean, you weren't still holding out for it being the truth. Just kill me at Armageddon. I can't do this anymore. For you, it was really done.
I walked out of the middle of the meeting with zero belief anymore, basically. And I called my girlfriend at the time, and as I told her we have to talk, told her I loved her. And yeah, that was the whole thing. And then we left together and went on a big trip for 6 months and kind of decompressed together.
Wow. So she took it well then?
She took like 4 months of sort of listening to what I had to say and doing her own research, and then she found her own way to leave.
Wow.
It was cool, actually, because her and then her sister, who we were really close with, lived out here. And her sister also started listening and talking about what her doubts and doing her own research. She left. And the whole reason that I was even in Colorado at the time was a good buddy of mine from Minneapolis, another witness. He was living out here, and he was kind of wavering as well. And we all sort of left around the same time. And when that girlfriend and I got back to the States, all of us lived together for a while. And this sort of 1 year of XJWs, just finding our way to be in the world. It was cool.
Yeah, that's really special to have that kind of support through that process. People that can relate to what you're going through and give you a kind of a kickstart for a new community.
Yeah.
So what about your background as a filmmaker? How did you get into that?
So my camera work goes back to being a teenager. My grandma got me a camera. In high school, I was always shooting film photography on 35 millimeter for fun. And then we had a really cool dark room and Photoshop class in my high school. And we had an entire film department with documentary and broadcast news. So I was really involved in all that stuff. I took every class that was available then. And my first job was in TV in my hometown in Wausau, Wisconsin, at Channel 7, running camera and sound for their live news, morning and noon news. I went to school for photography for a couple of years in Minneapolis while I was a witness there. I went to school for that. So I always had this sort of passion for it. But it wasn't until 2012, I went to Vietnam on a whim to teach English. With a friend of mine kind of just gave me this in somewhere, so I just took this whim, went on this whim, and I went out there, and it totally changed. Like, it was a very unique part of my life, and I came back to the States for a bit, and I realized that I wanted to go back to Vietnam, but I didn't want to do English teaching, which is what I initially went there to do. I wanted to do filmmaking and pursue this documentary project in the Himalayas with this Hmong organization. So I bought a cheap camera, cheap microphone, and I just went and did it. And made some close friends out there. And I really just threw myself at filmmaking.
What year was this?
That was 2013. So 2012 I went out there. 2013 I made the decision to go back with that focus and to work. Because I always wanted to do documentary. I always loved documentary in terms of the style and telling real, honest stories. Because I feel the real world is fascinating, and fiction isn't. I love fiction, but I don't really want to make it. I want to make real stories, tell real stories, because the real world is super interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how many years ago was it that you left the organization?
2008, so 10 years ago.
So you left 2008. You started working on documentaries in 2013.
Yeah.
Why now? Why XJW coming out now?
I feel like the personal side of that story is I was just trying to ignore and forget that I had wasted so much time believing in nonsense and being coerced to do things I didn't want to do. And I just didn't want to spend another minute of my life on Jehovah's Witnesses or their teachings or their drama. So there's more to that. So I didn't want to spend any more time on it, but I wanted to tell a story with film that I knew I could tell well. And so after I got the skills by spending 4 years learning and just doing film things out in East Asia, I felt like I had the skills to tell my own story. But I'd learned enough about it that I realized I didn't really want to be in it. I've seen a lot of films people make about themselves in documentary, and they don't get great reviews, and ends up being sort of an egotistical film in a way. So I've been trying to tell other people's stories, which is telling my story as well, in a roundabout way. Why now? I feel like I have enough distance from it emotionally to just say what I really believe and what I feel is true. Another thing that's a big factor is that my personal family, who were very fringe in terms of they're just not good at being witnesses, after I left, and they're the only people I even cared to talk about why I left or what the belief issues were, or they did a huge 180 from inviting me after I was out. Even my ex-girlfriend, the girl I went on a big trip with and left with, they invited us to family reunions and stuff, and we were just faded out and didn't care, weren't talking about it. And then they did this big 180, probably from something they heard in the Watchtower or convention, to really shun. And I'm baptized, and I was never disfellowshipped, to my knowledge. I mean, who knows?
Sure.
But they went and did a whole 180 and just shunned completely. And I lost my two brothers, older brother, younger brother, and two little sisters, my parents, my grandparents, and they just really radicalized, just became super extreme poster family for Jehovah's Witnesses. And I didn't see it coming at all because they barely went to meetings.
Sure.
All of them. My older brother skipped every meeting, just canceled his talks. My little brother, same. My parents, my dad was pretty regular. My mom almost never would go. I just never saw that coming. And they wavered. They would like shun and then unshun and then shun and then friend on Facebook and then unfriend on Facebook. Like, I don't know what's going on with them, but it's complete chaos. So what I realize is like, it's not just a religion. It's not just your average Christianity where they believe what they want and have their own personal views. They are acting, talking, in every way looking like a cult member.
Yeah.
And that sounds like a cult. And I just didn't expect that. I wouldn't even think about doing this project if they weren't acting like extremists.
Right. And until you've really felt that yourself, it's easy to kind of ignore that.
Yeah.
And I think most of us have experienced that. Once we leave, at some point, our family takes that hardline approach, and it's like, wow, they're gone. All of them are gone. And you start talking to other people from more, mainstream religions, and they'll say, yeah, that sounds like a cult. That's not normal. And then you start to think back that there were influences in your life that were much stronger than people experience in most ordinary Christian faiths or whatever world religion it might be. And I think a lot of people kind of in the general public don't understand that. Mm-hmm. That this is different than just another Christian religion or a group that wants to teach you about the Bible. So I love that it seems like we're living in a time when more and more XJWs are trying to bring this information to the public, not only through the internet and websites, but also through documentaries. Mm-hmm. And there are a few of them out there. Have you seen Truth Be Told?
Is that Te Verdener? Is that the fiction that's done from the Netherlands?
No. This one is also a documentary.
Okay. I haven't seen it yet. I think I just found the link about a month ago.
Okay.
But it's a pay-for view, I believe, is it not?
Yeah, it's good. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's really just about, I guess my impression of it was trying to give people an idea of what it's like growing up a Jehovah's Witness. And I know there are some projects in the works right now that are focused on policies, the blood doctrine, the shunning, the child abuse. There's been a lot about that in the news lately, and that's getting more and more attention. And that's all great. There's been documentaries produced by Christian organizations that are focused on, Jehovah's Witness doctrine and picking that apart. So a lot of different things have been done. I guess my question for you would be, what makes your film different than those? I mean, just to speak from what I've seen in the preview, there's an artistic flair to yours. I'm really glad that you took those years to kind of get some filmmaking under your belt, because it really shows in that preview, and I'm quite excited about it. I think that it's going to be interesting for a lot of people to watch, and we can talk about who the intended audience is as well. But for now, just tell me what makes yours different.
So I actually have been sort of operating in the dark. Because I've been avoiding the whole issue, the whole religion for so many years. But what stuck with me was that when I was a witness, I had seen a number of documentaries that came out about the witnesses that were produced by non-witnesses. And what I got to thinking about when I was in Vietnam was that this issue or this topic, there's got to be millions of ex-witnesses at this point. I did the math, and I think it's somewhere around 3 million ex-witnesses who are probably alive and out. And then there's about 8 million witnesses. And to make a video that's targeting both of those groups is... I don't really want to target the witnesses because they're not going to pay or even admit to watching something. But I know that what I realize is that even as a witness, every witness watched witness stuff, witness media, even if they did it secretly. And so there's this whole activism piece that I want to make something about this community of people who've left that doesn't paint a picture of us being depressed, sad, broken, needing medication or therapy, all of which might be true at times, but that's not the whole story. That's more true of witnesses.
Yeah.
Say, but they have the best life ever and they're the happiest people, but that's not true. They're stressed out. They have a lot of pressure in their lives. They're on depression medicine. They need therapy and they're not getting it. Ex-witnesses we're stronger. We've left. We made a choice, or it was made for us, but anyway, we're out, and we've had to deal with shunning. We've had to deal with making our own life choices. So I wanted to make something that sort of tells the transformation, the growth, the positive side of our story. Because I didn't ever see anything like that. Sure, we have to talk about what it took to get out, what it took to mentally, logically, emotionally to take off. But now what are you doing? These people are traveling the world. They're ballet dancers. They're in punk rock bands. They're professional musicians, artists, fashion designers. They've gone out and probably, partially because they were shunned and had no support, gone and fought to do what they love to do because they had nothing left to lose. Yeah. That.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Because it counters the narrative. You know, Jehovah's Witnesses want to believe that when you leave or are cast out that you don't have anything, that the world's going to dump on you and Satan has you, and there will be no measure of success. It will be a miserable existence. I mean, that's the way it's portrayed in their literature. Right. I do think that that's more likely to be the case if you yourself still believe that narrative, still believe it's the truth, I'm worthless, God's going to destroy me, I'm Armageddon. Then you do sometimes get that really self-destructive behavior, and sometimes we have to go through that phase. But once you realize, you know, this wasn't what I thought it was, and I actually am free now, and I can live my life. There's opportunities that open up that you could never imagine, and like you said, there's fantastic success stories out there. So I think to make a film that highlights that, like I said, counters the narrative and will not only catch the attention of a Jehovah's Witness that hopefully will watch it, but it'll also be empowering for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses to see those stories.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you nailed it. That's it.
Let's see here. So where are you at with all this? How much further do you have on the project to go?
Good question. So what I did is Soren, this guy in Germany who I met, and that's a fun story to tell about how I met Soren. But he we were at the bar drinking, and he pitched this idea to me, or he spun the idea to me that he came out twice, being gay and also leaving the religion.
Yep.
I was like, that's it. I had this idea for years to do, tell this story, but that's how I want to frame it. So that's kind of where the idea for the name came is from hanging out and drinking with Soren. And then,
that's in the trailer, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he says it in our interview.
Okay.
But we also had that conversation over beer the day before that. And I said, let's just do it. Let's meet and see what happens. I have no idea what this is going to be like, but let's go. So I interviewed him and filmed him around town a little bit, but I was sort of on short visit because I was visiting family in Munich. And then, anyway, I guess to answer your question, I filmed 3 people, and they're in the teaser, and great interviews, great footage of all of them. I'd like to do a little bit more with Soren. I'd like to do a little bit more with Chi. Now she's living in France, so we got a bit in Vietnam, and there's definitely footage you haven't seen yet that will be in the feature or the episode. But I also just interviewed a punk rock guitarist named Alexi, and a video just came out with him that was emailed to everyone who signed up. And that's a cool exit story with some fun slow motion video. It's basically a podcast about his exit. He's got a great story. And then this other woman I met on Facebook the other day who happens to live right here in Denver. She's a ballet dancer. That's why I mentioned that before. So I've interviewed all these people. I've put together the teaser. I've actually made 3 full episodes with one character, but they're a little boring because it's just the one character. And it was an experiment, and I spent 3 months on it, cutting it. And I realized, and I've got great content. I'll start releasing some of that. But right now I'm collecting stories. So I'm in production. I want to film and capture a lot of stories. I want to focus on people I'm connected to because I know them well and I can get really great exclusive access. But I really want to open this up to anyone creative who's in the XJW community who wants to have a voice. And I'm willing to fly, drive, work with them. I want people to put their music out to put in these kind of documentaries. I want this to be an episode series. So that's my intention, is that it won't end. There's millions of stories. Right. I don't want a one-off documentary. There's plenty of one-off documentaries, and there's too much to say to do a one-off and capture the essence of what this global community is really about. People have been reaching out to me from Africa, Brazil, Colombia, Puerto Rico, a bunch of countries, Chile, and there's groups everywhere. There's a big Dutch community, big German community, big French community, big Spanish community. UK is huge. There's people from Sweden and Norway paying attention. There's this guy in Lithuania who's doing stuff with me. It's great. People are editing subtitles, which is a really cool thing, just to make sure they're accurate. Right. People are writing their life story to print in a blog. I'm behind on publishing those. Sorry, everyone. I will get to formatting them in all of your languages. But yeah, I'm in production, and we're working towards doing a fundraising campaign. It's a crowdfunding campaign. So crowd is the most important part of that. Where is the audience? Who wants to see stuff like this? I don't know. I'm looking for all of you. Who wants to? Let me know. Let me know what you like, what you don't like. And then if we're successful with that, then I don't have to seek other work for a bit of time, so I can start going and getting these stories. Probably costs me about $500 or $1,000 to go somewhere and get one interview and film per person. So there's a whole expense there.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and it's not just me, but primarily it's me. But there's a lot of supporters, a lot of people that are industry friends of mine who are not witnesses or even associated, but they love the project and want to support it. There's a lot of ex-witnesses who've given their music and their time, and a lot of feedback coming from ex-witnesses and also good old friends of mine. I've traveled a lot, so I have friends all over.
Yeah, that's great. So if people want to support in some way, how can they either contact you, or do you have a link for a Patreon or something like that? How are you doing the crowdfunding?
So there's this group I found through a film group in North Carolina. A good friend of mine's out there. And they recommended seedandspark.com. Okay. Seed and Spark is these two women are running this organization, and their focus is on diversity of voices, diversity of cultures, sexual orientation, perspectives, all kinds of diversity. And they have a really, really great success rate in terms of funding projects. I've learned a ton from them already. So we are planning to do this great campaign, or I guess we're trying to do a campaign. We'll see if it's great. And it's a really great opportunity right now because there's two grants, one from WeTransfer.com, one from another company. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. But if we launch it within this window before mid-March and it's successful, not only, well, if we win any of the grants, I think we have a big chance at it. They do too. I've messaged their people inside. They could be funding us more than double or triple of what we're shooting for. We're shooting for a total of $9,000, and we're not asking for donations. We're asking you to contribute. Yeah. And we have all these really cool things to give. If you were to contribute a pledge of some amount of money, there's the soundtrack of the album, which is all XJW musicians. Nice. And some art. We created a Cards Against Humanity style card game for Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, outstanding.
It's already 240 cards, I think. So I've been posting a lot of that on Instagram. People are loving it. So I put the situation card down and they fill in the blank, and there's tons. XJWs are hilarious. I love all you guys.
Well, that's really cool. Okay, so I will have put up on the screen the link. Could you just say it again?
Seedandspark.com.
Seedandspark.com. And so if they go there, all this information will be on there. The ways that they can contribute and the gifts they might get.
Yeah. So right now it's not. It's been submitted, and we're through to launch shortly. So the link won't work for this project until we actually launch. But the full link is...
You can give it to me, and I will put it in the description below. Make sure it's accurate and make sure it's active, so that when it is active, it'll be there for people to go to.
And I've been putting it in the credits of every video I've put out so far. So the teaser has it at the end, and the pitch video that we're about to launch, that's coming out in a week or two, when the campaign launches, it'll have it. And Alexi's exit. That new video with the punk rock XJW guitarist. Sounds like you haven't seen it yet.
I don't think I saw that one, no.
I'll send it to you. But that's out privately. So I've sent it to all the people who've signed up. But that has it. Anyway, there's news out there. I've been trying to soft launch to the XJW community. You're the family and the friends of this film. So I would love your support.
I'm very glad to do it, and I'm really excited. I will put not only the link for Seed and Sprout, but also for the trailer below. I'll put the YouTube link in there, and any other links you can think of. You can tell me later, and I'll get them all in the description below. I really appreciate your taking the time, Scott. This is exciting stuff.
Yeah, thanks. It's been great. I've never done this, so my little emotional breakdowns are nice. They're good for me.
Yeah, it's understandable, and I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Do this again soon.
Okay. So I didn't realize that it was going to be installments like that. Will there be an initial documentary, just normal feature-length documentary with follow-ups, or is it going to be installments like episodes? Or
I don't know. I mean, I feel what I want to do, and I should have mentioned this more clearly, because I have thought a lot about this, is topic-based episodes. So, like in the teaser, for example, she's talking about her issues with having to talk about masturbation with old grown men as a young woman who's a virgin. But yeah, so she talks about sex. Soren talks about like the homosexual sexuality side of not being able to be in a relationship ever that he's proud of. He talks in greater length about a gay Jehovah's Witness elder who takes him aside and tells him straight, "I'm gay, and I found a way to marry and follow God's laws and have a family and just deal and pray about it every day because I'm still gay."
Wow.
So there's some heavy things there about sex and sexuality that I think a lot of witnesses go through. Anyway, do a sex episode, maybe a shunning episode that really dives deep into those topics. And there's so many topics, and it doesn't have to be exclusively that topic, but because there's so much to everyone's story. And that's my concept. I mean, I'm open to ideas. I want this to be collaborative. I'm just trying to put this out there with my best idea forward, but if a better idea comes along, totally could adjust it.
Yeah. I think people will be excited to share their ideas with you. Cool. So the other thought I had while we were talking about the intended audience for XJW coming out, and what is the full title?
XJW, Coming Out of the Jehovah's Witness Religion.
Okay. So the intended audience, we talked about current Jehovah's Witnesses who might sneak a peek. We talked about other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses being in the millions. But is there also a hope that just the general public will watch it? I mean, if you think about what's super popular right now, we have Leah Remini's Scientology in the Aftermath. I mean, a lot of people are talking about it. It's very popular. Are you hoping that this could even go bigger than just, the XJW community?
So yes, in short. I've focused I've had a lot of people give me advice, filmmakers, photo people, good friends of mine, and general people that I've had over that wanted to see what I was working on, and got a ton of feedback. And the overwhelming feedback was that there's a lot of unanswered questions, there's a lot of things I don't know. Can you tell us more about this? And there's been this huge refining process to cater it to the general public, to be interesting to the general public. I think that's important. And actually, I've found that most ex-witness videos and books do that. Because if we're just talking to other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, we're sort of, they already know all this stuff.
Sure.
But there's some kind of camaraderie there, and I think the core supporters of it, my theory at the moment has been that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are the niche target market. It's not my story, it's our story. I want to tell the story of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. So I'm guessing that a lot of other ex-Jehovah's Witnesses will want to watch it because it's media about us. There's not a lot of that. There's not a lot of good media about that. I want to create something that we're proud of, not something that's sort of roll our eyes and are bummed that we had that experience, but
right.
Proud that we share this together, that we've come out of something difficult and we are here to support each other.
To me, when I watched the doc or the trailer, the people that you're interviewing in it feel so human. I mean, of course they're human, but it's so relatable and genuine, the way you've captured these moments, that I think just about anybody will relate to it. I mean, humans are humans. So, I mean, even if people haven't had that experience, to watch somebody be so honest about their experience, I think it will appeal to anybody. I'm really hoping that it does, that it's not just for the XJW community. I mean, it's a great thing for us. It is our story, but I think it has the potential to go a lot farther than that.
Thanks. I'm glad you said that and pointed out that it has the humanitarian or human interest side, because that's something I really appreciate about these people that have worked with me so far and been able to tell their stories. Is I want to humanize the apostates, as the witnesses say, because we're not evil demon worshippers and doing seances and eating animal sacrifices or whatever crazy thing that they believe, or just having orgies. We're just normal people trying to live a fulfilling life, whatever that means to each person. And having a sit-down, stiff documentary talking about serious things, I don't think tells an honest picture. I don't want to do that. So with every character, it's been, let's drink beer, let's smoke, whatever will chill you out. And it's not just doing an interview either. I mean, these are my friends now. We've gone out to the bars, I've met their friends, we've partied, and that's the most fun way to do this, actually. Before this, I was getting ready and I was telling myself, okay, no ums, no likes, no uhs. I did some, no you knows, all those word whiskers.
Right.
History school dialogue. But it all comes back to me when I'm working on this stuff.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Daniel. See ya.
Yep, bye.